Hey, you're back. How was that metaphorical food I made? We're back and it's time to talk about the Fever series. If you remember, which you should, because it's definitely only been 20 minutes, I mentioned that the Treasure series is stuck in an endless cycle. Precious, the last song of this series, ends with it going to the beginning of the journey. But what if that wasn't the beginning of the journey? While it is true that Precious is the beginning and end of Treasure, the Fever series was revealed to be a prequel to the Treasure series. I hope you're ready cause we are gonna start the real beginning, starting with. After the release of Treasure Epilogue, one of Ateez producers, Eden, has stated if you think Ateez universe is like a movie, we're probably 15 minutes in right now, in terms of the timeline. There was a 5-month gap in between Treasure Epilogue and Fever Part 1, which came out on July 29. During those 5 months, Ateez started to give hints about their universe. In this Blue Room Live, when asked if their story deals with parallel worlds, Sunghwa says that is correct, and that answer specifically is in a different dimension. Jongho then answers a question about the masks they wear in Hala Hala, and if they have a specific meaning. He explains that they wear it to mask their identity. So let's put these two answers together really quickly. There is a parallel world in the storyline, an answer is in a different dimension on its own. Ateez are shown wearing masks whenever they are seen, because they need to hide their identity. But wait a minute, they were seen in Wonderland and Answer without their masks. This means that in Wonderland and Answer, Ateez didn't need to hide their identity. In Wonderland, they didn't need to hide it because they have some type of power in that world. Answer is some sort of special dimension, where, even though Ateez have no power there, they don't have to hide their identity. This dimension is basically like a neutral zone, possibly in between these dimensions. The next question is about Yesang regarding the glass box he was seen trapped in, and how he escaped. Woo Young explains that this is a very crucial part in their story, and that it will be revealed bit by bit. Yoonho then says that it's because he's a magician. Wait a minute, that's what I said. The first things released in this era were a set of pictures coupled with a short passage, each correlated to a different member. After this, a poster was released titled Into the New World, showing an hourglass. Afterwards, a teaser for something called a diary film came out, and then, a few days later, a 16-minute video was released on their official YouTube. Where we last left our brave adventurers, Hongjung was messing with the space-time continuum and sent everyone back to the beginning. Or was it? While Treasure is the beginning of their journey, it's not the beginning of their story. Like most stories, it all began with a book.
The universe is divided into many dimensions. This is the story where their dimensions are split into 8 pieces again.
Pause. Excuse me, what? She then flips the page to show an hourglass before it cuts to Hongjung. We see him waking up in a warehouse where we see a familiar figure in front of him. As he steps closer to Hongjung, he holds out an hourglass. Hongjung looks up to him, and we get a closer look at the masked man's face. Hey, isn't that? It cuts to Hongjung waking up again. It seems like that whole thing was just a dream. But then we see the hourglass on the table. The sand in the hourglass starts flowing up before it cuts out. Hongjung is in front of an old electronic store.
다 알 수 없는 TV 속 세계. 그들이 사는 세상과 나의 세상은 유리처럼 가로막혀 있다.
He then goes back to the warehouse. It seems to imply that he lives here, or at the very least spends a lot of time here.
나의 꿈, 나의 친구, 그리고 나의 가족들.
He pulls out his wallet, where he has an old-looking photo of his family.
모든 걸 다시 찾을 수 있을까?
The sand in the hourglass starts to flow, and we see that objects in the warehouse are now floating in the air.
부족한 난 배워야 할 것이 많다고 생각했다.
Sunhwa is in an office with many to-do lists taped to the wall.
힘들어도 정해진 길을 따라 한 발씩 앞으로 나아가다 보면
When he stops, we see a girl dancing in front of a store.
그때 난 진짜 나에게 부족한 것이 무엇인지 깨닫게 되었다.
After she leaves, Sunhwa goes to the spot where she was and picks up a bracelet that reads, "Be free."
내가 가지지 못한 것, 내게 진짜로 필요한 것.
Woo-young walks towards a group of people dancing in a parking lot.
수많은 사람들 앞에서는 두려움, 무대 공포증, 나 혼자서는 버티기 힘든 것이었다.
When he closes his eyes, he thinks back to him in the warehouse scene earlier.
혼자가 아니라면, 함께 해주는 친구들이 있다면 나도 해낼 수 있을 거야. 이젠 난 혼자가 아니야.
He opens his eyes again, and now with confidence, starts to dance. It cuts back to Woo-young running towards the outside of the warehouse, where we see it chained up. Woo-young reads the sign and looks down for a moment before leaving. Ye-sang is seen in the middle of taking violin lessons.
아버지는 나에게 자유롭게 꿈을 펼치라고 말씀하셨다. 제한된 자유, 새장 속에 새가 된 것 같아.
He drops his violin and closes his eyes. When he opens them again, he is transported to the warehouse. Here, we see that everyone has been hanging out here. He is welcomed in and joins the members.
내가 진짜로 웃을 수 있는 곳, 내가 진짜로 자유를 느낄 때는 이들과 함께 할 때야.
또 다시 이사를 간다고 한다.
San is sitting in a moving truck.
3개의 학생증, 3벌의 교복. 하지만 친구는 아무도 없다. 마치 내 삶은 어딘가로 끌려가는 것 같다.
When he looks at his worn-out sneakers, he thinks back to being with the members. He opens his eyes and puts on his sneakers.
이렇게 또 친구들과 헤어지는 건가?
Yoonho is seen in a recording studio.
아직 남아있는 형의 공간. 형이 이렇게 된 건 나 때문이야. 이제 내가 형의 꿈을 이룰 거야.
Yoonho gets a message at 5:07 p.m. and then Jongho is seen on a basketball court.
한때 나의 모든 것이었던 것들.
He watches a basketball match from the bleachers, and we see him with a cast on his leg.
첫 번째 꿈도 그리고 나의 두 번째 꿈도 농구도 음악도 이렇게 연기처럼 사라지는 걸까?
이어폰 속 나 혼자만의 세상.
Mingi is first seen in an empty void. It then cuts to him fighting someone.
굳이 세상과 부딪히느니 차라리 혼자 있는 쪽이 나은 것 같았다.
Mingi opens his eyes after Yesang removes his earphone. He is seen having fun with the members, where they seem to be also recording music. Someone gets a message at 5:07.
잠깐 느꼈던 행복도 사실은 나와 상관없는 것이었다.
As the fight scene before is played out in full. Mingi puts his earphones back on and goes back to that empty void.
어차피 원래 난 혼자였어.
The memories of short happiness. When dreams broken into pieces. Can I find it again?
Hongjung is seen holding the hourglass, where all of the sand is at the bottom. Slowly, the other members start to surround him, wearing the outfits that we first see them in. This film reveals that Ateez before the Treasure series were just ordinary private school students. I didn't really explain a lot while going through, mainly because I didn't want to interrupt what was happening. But now that we've finished watching, I can go back and add in details not said in the film. In the Fever albums, for the diary version, they inserted short passages meant to be diary entries of the members. They show their own point of view of what is happening. In the first set of diary entries, it shows details of what is seen in the film. Hongjung doesn't want to be forgotten as if he never existed. He strives to become a star in order to gain his family's attention. He mentions that his family has split in some way, noting that he hasn't been to his house and wants to see them again. While living alone, he meets the other members who he calls his new family. All he wants is to keep his new family and reach this dream with them. When we are first introduced to Sungwa, he is someone who carefully organizes and plans his daily life. He is confined by rules. When he sees the girl and crosses the line, he realizes the only person who is stopping him from what he truly wants is himself. After this, he starts doing things his way. Yoonho's entry is him talking to his brother who is in a coma. It's implied that he got into a car accident. The reason why Yoonho gets hit by the car in the film is because it's a sort of trauma response to this incident. Yoonho wasn't the one who gets hit, but instead it's his brother. In the film, Yoonho picks up a broken guitar, and briefly you see his brother on the ground. After the accident, Yoonho meets Hongjung, who looks similar to his brother. He hangs out with him and starts to look up to him. Yesang's entry describes how he first met the rest of the members. Whenever he had free time from the schedule his parents had planned out, he would disassemble and reassemble various instruments and appliances. One day, Yesang got lost and had been wandering around before the sound of music led him to the warehouse where he met everyone. They had asked him if he knew how to fix a drone, and ever since then he would visit every day. While dancing with the members, he started to feel more alive than he has ever felt. He realizes that this is the path he wants to take, hearing people's cheers as he performs with his friends. But he ends his entry saying that he must leave all of that behind, stating that once he leaves everything will go back to normal, meaning the scattered members in the stolen hideout. This ties back into the last scene of Woo Young's film, where the warehouse was locked up. You don't find out why Yesang blames himself for this until later on, so we'll move on for now. San had to move around a lot due to his parents. Due to this, he never got to make friends, making him grow up lonely. His only friend seems to be this thing, named Bobo, who he states has always been there for him. When he first meets the members, he feels like they really connect with each other. Then his father tells him that they have to move again, which leads to what we see in the film. He decides to do things his way and stay with his friends. Growing up poor, Mingi's only escape from reality was music. In Mingi's scene, we see him kicking a student to the ground. People might believe that this means Mingi is supposed to be a bully, but I don't believe so. In Fever Road, we see him being tailed. He also mentions having some sort of insecurity about who his parents were. Putting everything together, I believe that rich high schoolers basically use him to do various things for him, not wanting to ruin their own reputation. In elementary school he met Woo Young, who talked to him excessively even if he never responded back. Unlike other kids who would give up trying to be friendly, Woo Young persisted and eventually they became best friends. When they got into high school, he followed him to the warehouse. The other members welcomed him as who he was, regardless of where he lived or who his parents were. Being with everyone, he felt exuberant for the first time in his life. But because of this, he started getting scared of this moment being taken away from him. Woo Young is part of a dancing group not connected to the school. He uploaded a dance practice video of himself that went viral on social media and is being scouted by multiple big entertainment agencies. But regardless of this, he suffers from stage fright. He used talking and laughing a lot as a way to distract from his shyness. Whenever he starts to doubt his abilities, he remembers a conversation with Sunhwa, Yoonho, and Hongjun where they helped him regain his confidence. Woo Young recounts the time he first met these three when they were doing a street performance. He noticed their expressiveness and showmanship and wanted to join them. When he dances with them, his stage fright disappears. Jongho had his whole life planned out. Become player of the year, go on to nationals, and be the youngest national basketball player. But when he injured his foot, his doctor told him that even if he recovered, he wouldn't be able to play basketball again. His first dream was taken from him. He became almost lifeless, barely hanging on as he attempted to make a new dream, this time with the members. Then one day, Mingi tells the members that this dream that they have together is just a luxury, and that this moment he spent with them was meaningless. Jongho without thinking punches him in the face, but as he did it, he noticed how Mingi's eyes mirrored his own lifeless ones. He mentions that Mingi had time to avoid his punch, but let himself get hit. Jongho felt as if his second dream was being taken away from him, and made him want to give up everything. Yoonho helps him through this, and he realizes that he doesn't want to give up this time with the members. Jongho then thinks about reaching out to Mingi, and when he does, Mingi acts as if nothing happened. The outro states that everyone decided to split due to them feeling as if their joint dream is now weighing them down. The separation leads to the universe fracturing and splitting into 8 pieces. Told in Hongjun's perspective, he says that, after they separate, is when he starts seeing the man in the fedora in his dreams. He describes him as having similar, but tired eyes. In the dream, Hala Hongjun states that they lost their dream not because of the tough reality, but because they decided to. He continues saying, get rid of the idea that the world you see is everything. There are many realities in this world. The world that I'm in, and the world that you are in are all real. He explains that he wants to explain everything but he doesn't have time to. I don't know, maybe make time, but anyways. He then says that the hourglass, called the chromer, is the key to connecting the world. His last words are to follow your heart, the map is there. Hongjun then wakes up and sees the chromer. When he turns it, the sand starts flowing up. Then the metal door to the warehouse opens, and the members gather around him, with a puzzled look on their face. Okay, this was a lot of information, but with this, we're ready to move on to an actual song in the album.
Studying wasn't much of my taste. I tried my best. Parents were fond of joy when I brought good grades to them. Walking on the same path at the same time, I continued my life with no expression. Many books tell me, look at the stars in the night sky and become the person who shines bright like those stars. But the stars that I looked up in the sky did not shine at all. So I continued to walk, looking down on the floor. Suddenly, a strange thing happened to me. As I was walking, a child came up to me and started talking to me. There's nothing on the floor to look at. Raise your head up. This child was a bit weird. The child looked at me with a bright smile and had a pure glow from its face, but it seems like this child had the same expression on its eyes as me. From that moment, we started to hang out a few times. Turning up the music and dancing together was the most exciting part of our hangouts. For the first time, I actually felt alive. Hearts pounding like it's about to burst out, and this tingling feelings coming up from my fingertips started to take over me. Was there a moment when I wanted something this bad? One by one, more children started to say my name. The path that I only walked with one another person became a path to many. Slowly, the word I became ours. Wandering around with this unknown fever, as we looked above our heads, stars seemed to shine bright. Today.
Fever is the main theme of this series, having a similar role to Treasure in its respective series. The song gives off a coming-of-age mood, with the members talking about teenagerhood and the hardships that come with it. Mingi and Hongjung's verses specifically show how all of them are feeling. They talk about how no one truly understands them, and that people, adults, would undermine the pain they feel. The boys are tired of living in this unfair world. If only there was a way for them to leave. Hey, what does this hourglass do? For Fever Part 1 they brought back fan voting, where fans, and even celebrities voted on which song should be the main title track. Inception won, and the music video was released at the same time as the album. The song is loosely inspired by the movie of the same name, but you don't have to have watched the movie to understand what's happening. The video opens up to Yeosang on a bed with white feathers falling around him. We then see Sunghwa in the same room from the diary film, where you can see Say My Name playing on the TV. It continues showing the members through their scenes in the film, but this time on a bed. At the dance break, red and blue lights flash as water fills the classroom. When it goes into the second chorus, the ceiling is now on fire. As the chorus ends, we see that Hongjung's and Sunghwa's sets are now on fire. At the bridge, you see Hongjung looking at the sleeping form of himself. He starts to run towards him. and when he reaches him, he lands in a void as the members open their eyes. The last scene is of Hongjung looking around in the void seen previously. Inception is Ateez's journey into the different dimension. The music video takes place in a dream, symbolized by the warm colors shown throughout the music video. At the end of the video, Hongjung leaps into his sleeping form and lands into a cold blue place, which we know symbolizes being awake. The members at this time also awake. This is them waking up in the new dimension. The choreography is going to be the main thing I analyze here, starting with the first move. Yesang starts it off, getting pulled into the dream. They then do a rewinding type of motion before Sunhwa starts to sing. At Yesang's dance break, the members make another rewinding type move, but it's different this time. As the members rewind, Hongjung is behind Sunhwa, making a motion with his hands that makes it seems that he's rewinding him specifically. I don't know the reason for this, or if he actually is supposed to be rewinding the rest of the members too, but it catched my eye regardless. At the climax, the members pull their hand away from their face. They're awake from the dream but not, as seen when San attempts to jump out of the dream, but slips right into another one. During this part, Hongjung has a peculiar look on his face. While everyone is pulling their hands away, he reaches out before looking back at them. At the very end of the song, the members turn around, their backs towards the audience. Except for Mingi and Hongjung, who seem to both close a door before looking up at each other. This part of the choreography is important. The other members are locked in the dream, except for Mingi. In the Treasure series, we find out that Mingi is aware of everything that happens during their journey. Here, we see where it first happens. Because Mingi has had his earphones with him since the very beginning, he's unaffected. With this song you might be wondering, wait, so, all of Treasure takes place in a dream? Not exactly. You'll see in the future albums how this all being just a massive dream doesn't make sense, and Inception is more of them teleporting. Think of it like going under anesthesia for surgery, and then waking up back in the hospital bed. With this, the boys are on the way to the new world, and we are on our way to the next song. All of that was super interesting, right? So, if Inception was Ateez's backstory, what about Ateez? The music video for Thanxx was released on August 23, 4 weeks after Inception. The first half of the video you see Ateez in a school setting. This means that at the start, Ateez were high school students as well. Their school looks slightly different from the private school Ateez goes to. This school seems more of a public school, with graffiti seen on the roof. In the next part of the video, you see Ateez in a desert-like setting, looking similar to Pirate King. The place itself seems to look like an arena or junkyard of sorts, but it also seems to be slightly lived in, with a couch and table scene. At the last part of the video we cut to Ateez on the street at night. They're surrounded by cars and behind them you see a giant stage with a skull head on top. At the climax, the lights go on to reveal a giant ship in the sky. For the ending scene, you see the ship flying as an instrumental plays in the background. Up until now, we've seen Ateez as very intimidating, but also encouraging, mysterious figures. Here, we see another side of them. The song itself is about them going against authority figures trying to tell them how to live their lives. This individualistic attitude has been seen before with Ateez, but the performance of the song shows off something else about them: carefreeness. There's not specific choreography that I want to point to, but instead how they are performing the choreography to show what kind of mood is going on while singing the song. For the first time, you see their personalities separate from each other. Mingi in some performances sprays Sunhwa in the face, but in one Sunhwa retaliates. You see Hongjung pretend to be shocked at Mingi playfully shooting San. Yesang gives off a nonchalant and innocent attitude for the whole song. Also in the performance, through stage makeup you can see their personalities. Specifically San and Wooyoung, who in one performance was seen with a black eye and is constantly seen with a band-aid across his nose respectively. Hongjung is also seen wearing a giant backpack. The best way I can describe this performance is powerful but also fun. They don't take themselves seriously. Wow, this is a new side of Ateez that we haven't seen before, except that we totally have, I just haven't shown you yet. Yeah, you read that correctly. I'm talking about dancing like butterfly wings now, because if I talked about it in the treasure video, you would absolutely think I'm insane for thinking this bright cute song is from Ateez's perspective. This song is about how even though their wings are now small, one day they will be big enough to take them high over the clouds. I don't have a particular reason for believing this, but I also don't have a reason to not believe this, so take that as you will. Remember when I said that they're not cowboys? This song is a continuation of Thanxx, with the boys ignoring the advice of an authority figure and going their own way. The lyrics show that, no matter how rough life will get for them, they'll face it head on. In Mingi's verse, he says behind the Mobius strip that turned the wrong fate into infinity. If you're like me, you probably have never heard of a Mobius strip before, so I'll explain it in the simplest way I can. A Mobius strip is when a single plane is twisted and connected to itself. If you were to take a piece of paper, twist it and tape the ends together, this would be a Mobius strip. Even though it is twisted, it will act like a single-sided piece of paper. If you draw a line on it, you will end up right back at your starting point, causing an infinite loop. So what does this mean, exactly? The Mobius strip is an explanation of the dimension seen in the lore. We have the dimension Ateez is from, and the dimension Ateez are from. These dimensions are similar to each other, but they have differences between them. The strip is also something to describe the new dimension specifically. In Taya's universe analysis, they explain that once Ateez goes into the new dimension, they are both at the same starting point. However, Ateez are not only on the opposite side of the strip, but flipped. This will explain how they can exist at the same place, but not at the same time. Answer is its own dimension with its own rules, so it doesn't apply to this. I don't know how much I agree with this theory, but this is the best Ateez Mobius theory I've seen, so check out their videos. Sorry to spring a math lesson on you, class is over now. With all of that done, we're finished with the first album. Fever Part 2 was released on March 1st. They released a poster titled From the New World, showing a tree where we see a fedora, a pirate ship, a puppet of a bedazzled man, and a turtle. They also showed a poster with a similar tree, but this one is on fire in the desert. This poster is a reference to a painting seen in Say My Name, where you can see the same tree in a painting. The music video starts with Ateez walking towards a city, a dead tree in front of them. It then switches to them in an abandoned subway. In the bridge, when Woo-young drops his lighter, we cut to the tree now on fire. At the end of the video, we have the return of the man in white, now searching around the burning tree. Before the release of the music video, Ateez released a teaser concept video.
stars in the sky cannot be seen because people never raised their heads. The stars didn't stand out, but it didn't mean that they were gone. When all the lights were put off, there they appeared, shining faintly, and the boys came from the horizon crossing the border. But the darkness stopped the boys, and there was no light to cast it away. People hoped that the flame within the boys would consume the darkness. And as they prayed, the fiery voice of the boys broke the silence and awakened the world.
This video happens before fireworks. It's the story on how Ateez, after seeing the citizens lost in the darkness, decide to help them.
We did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
In Hongjung's verse, he is shown flipping a switch. In the music video behind, he explains that it's a switch to turn on the fire in people's hearts. The song is about them using the intense fire in them to light up the city, leading to them awakening the world. But let's go back to Ateez for a moment. As they were leaving for the new world, Ateez had different thoughts about their new journey. Mingi felt regretful for almost leaving the group. He wants to stay with them forever, and this new world doesn't particularly matter, as long as they're together. Sen talks about this Bobo character, wondering if they're eating well, and not to worry too much. He promises Bobo that he will be back. Hongjung is thankful for the chromer. With it, he was able to help the members. When the members first scattered, he was so heartbroken that he wanted to die. It doesn't matter what lies ahead in the new world, the most important thing in his life now is the members, his new family. With this, he promises to protect their dream. The day they left, Woo Young was supposed to sign a contract with a big entertainment company. His dreams were going to come true, but instead he's going with the members. He wonders if he could eventually go back, before stopping his thoughts, not wanting the members to tease him for it. I wanted to go off track for a moment here, because I literally have nowhere else to talk about this. This insight on Woo Young's feelings towards going to the new world is important, because we see this be a drive for him going forward into the Treasure series. But wait, Woo Young loses his memory with the other 6 members. Right? No. Woo Young is like Mingi, who keeps his memories. I didn't mention it while discussing the Treasure series because I couldn't explain why he does until now. Woo Young has the strongest drive to go back to his life after this journey. Unlike the other members, his trouble was solved. We see him get over his stage fright in the diary film, and we just read that he was signed to a big entertainment company. That was his dream this whole time, but he's going with the members because he doesn't want to leave them. In the Treasure series, there are subtle hints that show that Woo Young is different from the other 6. First in Hala Hala, where Woo Young was the last one standing. Even though this is Hala Woo Young, since we know they are mirrors of each other, this is an insight to their personality more than an interpretation of Woo Young being antagonistic towards the group. He doesn't snap his neck because he's not fully committed, but still wants to stay with them. The next moment is an illusion. Woo Young is first seen lighting a match, and later looks at his reflection in blue water. Fire is important to the Ateez lore, because it represents transformation, passion, and destruction. Pair this with the blue water, which means reality, points to Woo Young knowing more than he lets on. In Wonderland, we see Woo Young get chained up by Ateez, but we never know why. Until now. This is just my theory, but I believe Ateez chains him in order to prevent him from doing something. I think Woo Young tries to leave, and their weird way tries to remind Woo Young why he went on this journey in the first place, to be with his members. In answer, we see Woo Young surrounded by blue butterflies. Blue butterflies are associated with a lot of things, but the ones to focus on are transformation, change in the passage of time. After Wonderland, Woo Young doesn't attempt to leave anymore, he goes through a change of character. We see butterfly imagery throughout the Ateez universe, so like the fire, it's not a thing only associated with Woo Young. But back to the main point. How does Woo Young retain his memories? As of now there isn't really an answer, this is just my theory. One possibility is that Mingi, his childhood best friend, regains his memories with the headphones. Since Woo Young isn't constantly seen with them, he probably forgets his memories every reset until Mingi regains them back. The problem with this theory though is, if Mingi can regain people's memory, why doesn't he do it to the other members too? So another possibility is that Woo Young's drive to leave protects him from getting his memory erased, or at the very least remembers this one thing. I keep just flinging a bunch of information at you at once, huh? That's gonna keep happening though, especially with the diary entries, which we will properly get into now. They use the chromer to go to the new world. The chromer has rules to it that makes this possible. The chromer can change its function depending on the changes of the moon. When the crescent moon rises, it can deliver messages through dreams. When it's a full moon, it can move dimensions. When the hourglass is flowing in the opposite direction, they are moving in between dimensions. They also mention that, since the chromer is based around the moon, there has to be a device that is based around the sun. But we don't know what that is yet, so let's actually get to the entries now. When they arrived in the new world, they were in the warehouse still with everything seeming the same. Suddenly giants dressed in white barged into the warehouse, looking for the chromer. Thinking quickly, Hongjung throws a glass shard at the giants to trick them, before escaping with the members. The surrounding area is familiar enough, and they find a place to catch their breath. Sun again mentions Bobo, and mentions that Woo Young once rescued Bobo from a cliff. So is Bobo a stray cat that San finds and takes care of? Sorry, I got distracted, moving on. Some time later, the giants find them again in the forest, and they start dragging Woo Young away. The members rush to try to save him and lose the chromer in the process. A girl who matched well with the moonlight saved Woo Young, who then took them back to her house. There they meet her brother, who explains that she can't speak because the giants took her voice. He then introduces themselves as the Grime siblings. The siblings then start worldbuilding. Telling the recent history of this world. The central government established a stable future policy for the entire human race by running AI simulations. They put the blame on human emotions for causing crimes and terrorism that threaten humanity, and so the key to their policy was to control the variables called human emotions. A bill to lower human emotions below the thresholds by using advanced technology and a bill to ban the arts, which greatly affects human emotions, had been passed. This bill caused an increase in wealth which made people happy, but once happiness disappeared, the world was filled with only logic and deficiency. Some time later, men in black fedoras appeared one day and started performing in the city. The performance had some type of power, and the people who listened to them started to show emotion again. This caused the liberated people to form a resistance against the government and call the men in black the Black Pirates. The government put them on the wanted list, but have evaded arrest due to being able to teleport with the chromer. As a retaliation, the government then made android guardians, the giants in white, who had successfully captured them. After hearing all of this, Sunghwa is basically like, I don't care about world building, we just need the chromer to get back home. In Yu Sang's letter to his father, he mentions that he's walking to Strickland, the name of the city they're in. Now that he's walking on a rough road instead of a beautiful one his parents made for him, he's tired but happy, knowing it's a road that he decided to walk on his own with his friends. Ye Sang describes the people living here as people who didn't bother to look at the sky as they walked, got on escalators like products on a machine belt, talked about only their needs and only looked at machines and not each other. He then reveals that it was his father that shut down the hideout, and that's why Ye Sang believed he had to leave them. He resented his father for this and decided to travel to the new world, not planning on going back. In order to get the chromer back, they have to go to the Guardian's bunker, and the only person who knows the location is someone named Left Eye, the manager of the Strickland dump. On their way there, they can spot yellow smoke in the city that causes hallucinations.
What kind of place is this?
This is why in fireworks, there was a foggy yellow hue over some shots. They split into groups, one will find the Grimes girl's voice, and the other will convince Left Eye to give them the location of the bunker. Jung-Oh enters the cave wearing a gas mask to prevent the smoke from affecting him, but starts hearing the sound of a basketball bouncing. When he stops moving, it rolls to him, and it has Victory is mine JH on it, indicating it's his ball. When he looks up, he's on the court, and he forgets what he was doing before his teammates call him onto the court. Ye-sang notices that the safety line connected to Jung-ho stops moving, and he follows in to investigate. Ye-sang finally spots him, to the shocking view of him unknowingly running towards a cliff. Meanwhile, we get backstory on Left Eye and his daughter. His daughter got hit by a speeding car while she was reaching out her hand to save a flower that bloomed on the road. People didn't care, she was just hit, just passing her by. Afterwards, Left Eye would see hallucinations of his daughter at the dump, and the guardians made him the manager. This reminds Yoonho of when he lost his brother and knows they will have to break the illusion Left Eye has and move him away from the smoke. Left Eye starts running after the members who lead him to a smoke-free space. Once his illusionary daughter disappears, he gets angrier. But then Yoonho yells out that his daughter is dead. He continues, saying that you're denying it because you don't want to believe it, but aren't you already aware of the truth? Left Eye takes this really well. Just kidding, he swings a bat at Yoonho, and we cut to black. The Leaders is a song told from Ateez's perspective. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm not calling them the Black Pirates. No one does, not even actual Ateez themselves. Anyways, it follows after fireworks after Ateez saved the city, naming themselves the new leaders that everyone should follow. In Hongjung's verse, he says the line "I'm the leader, both captain." Before the album release, a set of pictures were uploaded to their official sites, not being on the official schedule. The first one has Hongjung's lyrics from Say My Name. You also see symbols on the bottom. The symbols are of the chroma and the moon intertwined. The next photo is of Hongjung, with the symbol behind him. The next photo is a photo of the members standing on the symbol. In the Fever showcase, Ateez explains what these photos mean. Specifically looking at the first two, they reveal that Hongjung is the leader and captain of both Ateez and Ateez. Here, they say that Hongjung is the leader of Ateez, while he's the captain of Ateez. With this reveal, my head was honestly spinning, because obviously Hongjung in both dimensions would be in charge. But I think this means that these are their official titles in their respective group. Hongjung goes by leader while Hongjung goes by captain. This goes together with Hongjung's next line in the Leaders, where he says his family name is different. In the lyrics, for Wooyoung's verse, he says, "On my body black suit and tie, tight armband on my right." This is usually what the president of the student council would wear in high school, and here it has an extra meaning. In the same showcase, they then explain the second photo. In it you can see an armband on Hongjung's right arm. They explain that this armband symbolizes Hongjung's title as the leader captain. Starting from this album, you can see Hongjung wear this in all of their performances, so keep an eye out for it. There's another song on this album called Take Me Home, but we'll talk about that later, so for now we'll go to the next album. Except this is a single album. Dreamers is a song that was released in between the main albums and was an OST for the Digimon anime. I'm sure you're wondering what an OST for an anime has to do with Ateez lore. I thought that too, until I watched the music video. It starts with Hongjung alone, staring at a small reflective cube. On this island, the members are seen in different places. The forest scenes shown here remind me of Aurora. In Aurora, the members cross a bridge to arrive in a forest. Because of this, I believe that they're the same place. At the end of the video, you see everyone together, with Hongjung the only one awake. He stares at the same cube as before. Before anything, I want to say that the cube itself does not have a meaning. It's not an object that you need to pay attention to, it's more of a symbol than an object. The song Aurora takes place after Wave, and with Dreamers we see the members continuing to enjoy their time together. There's a scene of Hongjung watching the members on the beach before the last scene. Hongjung is being reminded of their time before their journey, before they enter the new world. The cube is supposed to be him reflecting on the past. Acting as a calm before the storm, we move on to the next album. Fever Part 3 was released on September 13th. With this album they brought back fan voting, with Deja Vu winning over Eternal Sunshine. They released a poster titled Over the New World, showing a broken Cromer. Deja Vu was released on the same day as the album. We first see Ateez on a roof before the camera travels into an underground bunker. We briefly see Sungwon Yeosang, who has a butterfly on his hand. We know that the butterfly means transformation, change, and the passage of time. This means that one of the Yeosangs will go through a change zone. We see a drone flying before we see them being analyzed by a machine, which could be the drone. The scene shifts to them in a parking lot. When you slow the scene down, you see a man in all black walking by. At the bridge, a bunch of objects fly past the screen. When you slow it down, you see a crystal ball, Earth, the Cromer, a car, and a butterfly. We've seen this crystal ball before in Illusion. After we see the objects, we see Hala Hongjun, who looks up to Hongjun. We move back to the roof, where they perform the choreography. Throughout the music video we've seen lighting shown in the sky, and here it's more intense with the addition of the rain. We cut to black and then see a scene of Yeosang clutching the Cromer. He turns it, and it flashes a scene of him reaching out before showing the Cromer broken on the floor. It then shows two hands reaching for each other. I can't properly explain what's going on in this music video until we get into the diary entries, so just keep everything in mind, okay? We start with more world building. Humans can live up to 200 years, which increases time at school, leading to 40 years of education required to learn basic knowledge and simple principles. The central government made an AI system in order to achieve an utopian society. The only thing the system could not predict and solve was human emotions. The AI classified it as a bug, leading to the government to prohibit art and took away sensitivity, emotion and free will. Last time on Dragon Ball Z Ateez, Jong-O's still high as a kite. He hears someone call his name, and he remembers going to the doctors who tells him about his ankle. He pleads to his teammates to not leave him, then the voice calls him again. He sees Yeosang behind the doctor, who holds him still, to put the gas mask on his face. His mind clears, and he sees they're sitting on the edge of a cliff. Yeosang tells him they got the girl's voice back and they leave. Left eye swings and misses, hitting a window. Yoonho unflinchingly watches as he starts swinging the bat at other objects until it completely shatters. Yoonho walks towards him against the member's warnings, stating that he felt an unexplainable emotion and strange pity that led him to fearlessly stand in front of him. He tells him it's not his fault, and left eye crumbles to the floor. Yoonho continues saying he never had thoughts of harming someone in the first place. Left eye starts crying, letting out the guilt he felt, saying, what if I didn't send her there? What if I was there with her? What if? Yoonho feels that looking at him, he feels like he's vulnerable in front of a mirror. After this, all of them, including Left Eye and the Grimes siblings, get on a boat to sail to the bunker. They arrive on an island that used to be a tourist hotspot, but that's meaningless now that people have no desire to have vacations. Ateez wanders to find the bunker and finds that it has yellow steam coming out of it. The bunker is a gallery, which like Weiying states is ironic given the whole ban on arts. They go to the exhibition part of the gallery, finding drunk androids on the floor. At the end of the room, men in black fedoras are in a glass prison. This gallery is the one seen in Deja Vu, the scenes of them in an all-white room. Hongjun throws himself against the glass, getting his attention. He then says, finally you're here. Listen, we called you here. We are captured here and someone has to do our work. You may have noticed it, this world needs a change. Hongjun is like, why does it have to be us? And honestly same like they just arrived here late holding Starbucks, what makes you think they can jump in the middle of a revolution? Hongjun continues asking why do they look alike and trying to break the glass, but again Hala Hongjun is just like there's no time. The guy tells him and the others to put his hands against the glass. Hala Hongjun says we all face walls. Sometimes, we think that our lives would be happier without walls, but that is not true. If we earn things easily, we could lose them easily. Pretty profound for a guy an album ago was wearing a book bag half his size and ski goggles. He has his moments, I guess. They face each other and Hongjung feels an indescribable energy swirling around them, and without noticing, they have switched clothing. This moment is so crucial in the lore. If during this whole moment you're wondering why you were getting a strong déjà vu, it's because you have seen this before. This whole thing takes place in the museum scene in Say My Name. When Ateez puts their hands on the glass, they are doing the same move in the beginning of Hala Hala. Remember, the line said during this part is first time I felt this way, meeting a new side of me, followed by the sound of glass breaking. This is the first time Hala Ateez and Ateez meet each other in person, not just Hala Hongjung in their dreams. Continuing on, Hala Hongjung tells them to leave before the smoke clears. The androids were burning new energy in the hull, revealed to be people's memories. San picks some up from the floor, and after seeing what they were, gets angry at the Guardians for burning these precious memories and getting drunk from them. Sunhwa notices Yeosang is gone, and they run to the lobby and spot him. While running towards them, Yeosang throws the chromer at them, having found it. A bunch of Guardians are chasing after Yeosang, and one of them catches him by grabbing him by his neck. He threatens that if they don't return the chromer he'll break Yeosang's neck. Yeosang tells them not to, saying the Guardians will just capture them anyways. Hongjung decides that they will do a switch, the chromer for Yeosang. Yeosang starts thinking that there's no way to outrun the Guardians in the gallery, and if there's a way to save both him and the chromer. He thinks that everything is his fault, that they wouldn't have shattered if he was never friends with them in the first place, then they wouldn't have been in this place to begin with. I'm assuming he means the new world, meaning that if he was never friends with them, they wouldn't have split up and come back together, and wouldn't have thought of leaving to a new world in the first place. While thinking this, he walks to the middle as the Guardian tells Hongjung to throw the chromer. He asks himself what they know about the chromer, and he remembers something as Hongjung throws the chromer. Yeo catches it out of the air and turns it, puzzling the Guardians who chase after him. He then breaks the chromer. The Guardians drag him away as Hongjung tries to grab his hand and the light flashes. They wake up in the warehouse, in the old world. Sun counts them, and finds that one of them is missing, Yeosang. They realize that this means that Yeosang has been captured like Hala Ateez were. Hongjung opens his hands, showing blood, glass fragments and sand. There's a knocking sound from the door and Hongjung opens it, showing only Yeosang's drone that falls to the floor. With this they all feel that somehow Yeosang is still alive. These entries answered year-old questions, but there's still more that have been left unanswered. To get them, we have to go to the final album in this series. We'll talk about Eternal Sunshine there, just trust me, it'll make sense. Fever. Epilogue is Ateez's second full album and is the last album in this series. Similar to what they did in Treasure Epilogue, they had the concept photos for this album and Fever Part 1 mirror each other. In the solo photos, the members also had objects that related to either them or the lore in general. The final poster released was titled Upon the New World, showing paper airplanes flying in the sky. This album has 2 title tracks, but there wasn't a fan vote for which will be seen first. The first title track, Turbulence, was released on December 3rd before the album release, and the second, The Real, was released with the album on December 10th. We're going back to the beginning. Again. Before Thanxx, there was The Real. We start off with Mingi standing in front of the school, with the sign saying Ateez High School. We then see the other members split into different clubs. San and Wooyoung in baseball, Hongjung and Sunhwa in calligraphy, and Jongho and Yunho in motorcycle club. Yeosang is seemingly by himself. Mingi walks to the class and we see the poor state of the school, something we also saw in Thanxx. The students seem to avoid the new kid, and Mingi stands up, causing the desks to move away from him. All of the clubs make their way to Mingi's class, surrounding him until they break into a dance battle. It cuts to Yeosang on the roof, where a bunch of doves fly away. They briefly show a scene that is a reference to the movie franchise High and Low. The clubs meet again on the schoolyard to do another dance battle. Here, we briefly see Yeosang watching them. For the final battle, everyone meets up at an abandoned fishing port. As Mingi finishes his verse, a baseball flies towards him that he catches with one hand. It shows that Wooyoung is the one who throws it. A member from each club run towards each other until they meet and collide. When they collide, lighting and dark clouds starts forming until a bright light emits from their fists. This energy is seen from the school, where Yesang watches on the roof. The energy builds until it explodes, where they are now holding a book. They look at each other and smile, seemingly squashing the conflict between them. Yesang arrives, wearing a white suit, and calmly walks to the front until he starts up the music again. The finale is all of the clubs dancing together until they end with a bow. The music video shows that there was a time where Ateez were split at the start. They all had their own beliefs on what's important or cool in their clubs. When Mingi transfers to their school, they are all trying to recruit him, but Mingi is seen to be uninterested. Mingi, shown with his book, believes that his beliefs are the coolest, which leads to the four-way fight at the end. Throughout the video, you can see Yesang simply observing the conflict unfolding in the school. He is also shown with doves, something seen associated with his counterpart in Inception. Here, the doves symbolize him being a peacemaker in the school. When he goes to the port, he brings them together, showing that there is not one way to be cool. Everyone is cool in their own way, and that is what true style is. The music video starts with Yesang in a classroom. He has a paper airplane on his desk. He pulls out his phone and puts it on airplane mode. As it goes through the video, you notice that everyone is separated, and they stay that way for the whole video. Turbulence takes place in the old world after Yesang's sacrifice. Back in their original world, they find themselves in a scary, lonely place. Everything seems distorted and overwhelming. They wonder about what they should do and what they should be after everything they have seen. At the bridge, we see paper flying around Hongjun, similar to the scene in the diary film. A paper airplane then falls at his feet. He unfolds it and reads it before it flies out of his hand, the lights above simultaneously turning on, creating a path. Woo Young, who is at an airport runway, starts running forward. During this, Ateez comes to an answer. If they are to be something in this form, they hope to just be themselves. It's okay for them to just be present and here for each other on this night flight. Woo Young starts flying up into the sky as Hongjun runs out of the tunnel. You also see that the room Yesang is in starts to shake and move. In this video, Yesang is depicted as being on a plane. This isn't literal, this is meant to show how he's in an unreachable place away from the members who are on the ground. When the paper airplane lands at Hongjun's feet, he reads it, knowing it's a message from Yesang. After this is when the song rises, showcasing the light that was missing from the incomplete group. We come into a news bulletin talking about a trio who got caught stealing a Mayan relic. They were revealed to be part of Science Salver, a new religious organization. They were arrested, stealing from the Mayan civilization exhibition at the National Museum. The culprits aged 31, 28 and 21 respectively are suspected of stealing a relic from the Time, Destiny and Prophecy civilization exhibit at 10:05 on the 10th. The 31-year-old suspect claims that they stole it because he had to save humanity before they faced the world's end. Okay. The trio is believed to commit the crime on the orders of the leader of Science Salver. Science Salver was founded in 1999 by a scientist named Henry Joe who believed that humans are the collection of energy and that human concerns from an uncertain future can be resolved by science. Sounds vague but okay, continue. He frequently mentioned the Mayan relic, shaped like an hourglass. He also mentions that the energy condensed inside of it will be the key to saving humanity. The artifact imitates the moon's movement, with experts speculating on the exact purpose of the artifact. One established theory is that the relic was crafted through an uncommon metallurgy technique. That's a big word for Elmo, But basically it's the science and technology of metals and alloys, and deals with smelting. The artifact was used for ceremonial purposes. Wow, anyways, don't know why we needed to know that. Back to these boys. It's been a week since their return without Yeseng. Everything is the same, except that they are now in the past before they left. Specifically, they've returned to the time before Yoonho's older brother got into a car accident. At the warehouse, Sunhwa comes in like, "Isn't this the Chromer?" and shows them an article. It details the attempted robbery of a Mayan relic exhibited at the Museum of Korea named the hourglass that captures the lunar movement. Wait, didn't we hear this before? Hongjung theorizes that the Chromer, the one that broke, was from the other dimension, so it makes sense that there's a Chromer from this dimension, and with it, they can go rescue Yeseng. Let's go, guys. Or not. Why is everyone against it? Oh, because it's dangerous and illegal? Hongjung's like, but what about Yeseng? Should we just leave him? Sunhwa thinks about how before, he would have been scared of breaking the rules and never agreed to it, but shit's changed, stating, "We decided not to be stuck in the past. When we left to another dimension we all made up our minds, didn't we? We do know we are not in the present, so we must go back to make everything right." The others one by one then start to agree with stealing the Chromer, but then Yoonho speaks up, saying, "I want to stay here. I can't leave my brother." Jung-il walks out after Yoonho's comment and Mingi follows him, saying he respects his decision, saying, "When I thought that I may lose my grandmother everything felt meaningless, even my dreams and our members. I believe it will be even worse for Yoonho, who already lost his brother once. He wouldn't want to let him go." Jung-il remembers their fight, regretting it. Mingi continues, saying he didn't want to give up, but he stopped when his grandmother, his only family, collapsed that day. After finally hearing his perspective of that day, he understands his actions. Jung-il knows that he can't fully understand what Yoonho has gone through, but he knows that he must have suffered choosing between Yeseng and his brother. After a long discussion, the group respects his wishes and go through with the plan without Yoonho. We then see Yoonho spending time with his brother, and it's revealed Yoonho rode motorcycles with his friends. It's also revealed that his brother had a dysfunctional right leg since birth. His brother turns on the TV to the news, talking about Henry Joe breaking into the museum to steal Mayan relics with his followers. Some boys who were trying to stop him are now being held hostage. Yoonho then goes to rescue them, but tells his brother to stay inside no matter what. Woo Young's diary entry opens up to, "I thought Zion Salver was a religious group. But why? Why is Henry Joe pointing a knife at my throat? How did this happen?" At 4 p.m. they all gathered at the entrance and planned to enter in 2 groups of 3. At closing, when security was loose, one group was going to be decoy for the guards, while the other group steals the Chromer, but this never happened because the plan fell apart before they even entered the museum. People in red were coming out of the exhibition hall with a man in black techwear holding the Chromer. He had a long white beard, a mole on his right cheek, and large goggles. Woo Young gets the brilliant idea to try to blend in with the cult, wearing a red blanket he gets from a high school girl. The members do the same, and just as they get close enough to steal the Chromer, the police fire a shot and block the organization. Woo Young still tries to grab the Chromer, just then Henry Joe grabs him, holding a knife to his throat, and thanking him for coming. Hongjung is understandably freaking out. The police fire another blank, stating that if hostages aren't released they'll fire immediately. Yeah, that'll solve it. At that moment, a bunch of bikers began to circle the cultists, causing them to become more wary. Hongjung spots a sticker on a bike that says Ateez YH, which is just the equivalent of stitching your name on your underwear, but I guess more extreme? Sorry, sidetracked, anyways. Henry Joe loses control of his followers, and in his distraction Hongjung yells out to Woo Young, who then grabs the Chromer and runs. They then get on the backs of the motorcycles, while Henry Joe flees when the cops try to control the followers. A car comes from behind them, making the motorcycles suddenly turn and everyone wipes. The car is about to collide with them, but suddenly swerves and flips on the sidewalk, hitting pedestrians. Yoonho then sees that his brother was one of the people hit. His brother was on the way to the museum after seeing Yoonho on the news. He asks if it's 5:07, which it is. He continues saying he saw in his diary that he dies at 5:07 from a car accident. Yoonho tries to take him to the hospital, but his brother stops him, saying that it wasn't his fault he got injured back then, and it still isn't now, and that he should leave him in the past and move on. He then tells him that he was happy spending these 2 weeks with him before passing away. Yeah, it got real dark real quick. Meanwhile, Henry Joe stumbles out of the car and sees the chromer in Woo Young's hand. He starts running towards him with a knife, but Yoonho fucking decks him.
I'ma just scoot on over and let you whack him. Get him again. Get him for me.
And yells at Woo Young to turn the chromer. Henry Joe reaches for his knife, and right as he runs towards them, Woo Young turns it.
Meanwhile,
we then switch to Ye-sang, who wonders how much time has passed. He's in a tube without any light. Ye-sang encountered the resistances, who were killed, maybe. He says the Guardians took their biological energy. Either way, they are standing in front of his glass room, covered in a black fabric. Ye-sang says that the Grimes siblings are part of the undead resistance, explaining that they and Left Eye ran in after seeing the light from the chromer shattering. Left Eye lost his right arm but escaped. Ye-sang hears a trumpet and the Guardians guarding him run out. He hears a fight starting, and he yells out for help. He sees men in black fedora fighting against the Guardians. The door opens and men in black fedoras walk in, and one of them comes near his box, greets him and reveals himself to be Sunhwa. We switch to the underground hideout of the resistance organization Black Pirate, where a signal goes off on a machine that Left Eye reads. It's in Morse code, and he translates it. He smiles, exclaiming, "They're back, they came back." Cheers go off throughout the room of Black Pirate. The translated note reads, "Say my name. Ateez." Take Me Home is a song from the second album. When it was performed on their recent world tour, it told the story of the last part of the entries. I know Eden was like, this is like a movie, but it's more like a long-ass musical, to be honest. Using giant mirrors as props and the glass box room as the background, they start the performance. In the chorus, they sing, "The place I dream of every night. Somebody take me there, escape the gray city, and follow the light to the place in our memory." This is them describing Strickland and how they want to leave to find their utopia. For Hongjung's verse, his last line is, "Even if it's not an isolated island, it's uninhabited alive." Which not only describes the island where the gallery is located, but also his current feelings. At the end of the song, you can see the members act out putting on gloves and a hat as the glass box explodes. Ateez never signed up for this. All they wanted was to find a new home for them to belong to, but they did this for Halates anyways, to rescue their friend. And now that they're all together, what do they do now? Eternal Sunshine was released on October 3rd after Deja Vu promotions ended. The video starts with Jongho and Mingi together. This is showing their renewed friendship after the events of the last diary entries. Ye-sang and Yoonho are on a train, and when they look outside they see a city. We see them leaving this train station, amazed at what they're seeing. For Hongjung solo, we see him getting pulled down a train aisle. Here, he mentions Peter Pan's youth and the Mobius strip as things that are eternal. It then shows that the train is snowing and then filled with plants. At the bridge, we see Ye-sang in the middle. When it shows the members, it's snowing, and it goes back to him also being snowed on. He shifts perspective to the other side, where it's no longer snowing. At the end, Woo Young runs, before leaping into the air, where a flying sand grabs his hand. At this moment, we don't have an answer as to this new phenomenon. Which leads me to believe it will be in a future series.
There's something they're not telling us!
The music video is bright and warm, showing the boys enjoying each other's presence. By the way, have you ever watched the movie Eternal Sunshine for the Spotless Mind? If you haven't, I'll quickly summarize the plot. The protagonist goes in to have a procedure to erase his memory of his ex-girlfriend after learning that she has gone under the procedure and no longer knows him. Most of the movie takes place in his memories, where out of order, we learn about their relationship start to end. The girlfriend's hair changes throughout the memories, symbolizing changes the relationship goes through, and is a visual indicator to the views of where in the memory they are. Once the protagonist gets past the beginning of the end of their relationship, he gets to the honeymoon phase, where he reminisces about all of their happy moments together. Here is where the protagonist realizes he doesn't want to erase his memories. The precious moments he spent with her was worth any heartache that came after. So what does this have to do with this song that coincidentally has the same title? In the first verse, Sunhwa asks, if you could save only one memory, which memory do you want to remember? In which Woo Young and San replies, if I could save only one memory, it will be this moment. After everything they have gone through, Ateez realizes that even with everything that has happened, this moment where they are together makes everything worth it. Their friendship is eternal and unbreakable. Together, they shine like eternal sunshine. After they get off the train, you see palm trees, lifeguard towers, and colorful buildings. Things that you would see around a beach. Similar to how Inception was a transition from the new world to the old world, eternal sunshine is them going to the desert, their starting point.
Desire, obsession, fear, hesitation, trauma, frustration, distortion. Standing on the edge of where confusions have led us, we are gathered here. The tears and sweat we shed comes back to a river, and it pulls us to the vast world. Can we find it? Wandering around with this unknown fever, we now rise towards a new path, to a place where I can find myself, to a place where our treasure lies.
We've finally reached the end of this essay.
Look at us. Hey, look at us. Look at us. Huh? Who would have thought? Not me.
Without wanting to, I put a lot of effort into making this, so it means a lot to me that you decided to watch this silly video. So thank you. So now that you have everything you need to know about Ateez lore up till now, what's next?